Hey guys, Pete here with Top Deck Cards and Games, and today we're going to crack open this nice little pre-release box of Evolutions. And also we're going to go into some general strategies when it comes to building and preparing for a pre-release event. Especially now, since a lot of events with this new format and these new boxes are aiming a little bit more towards competitive. We're going to crack open, see what we get inside here, and then just give general strategies as to how to build a deck that can most certainly give you a nice little edge whenever you're competing in these events, get you a couple more packs. So let's go ahead and crack her open first. Let's see what we got and let's talk about it. These are definitely neat. If you're unfamiliar with the Evolutions set, basically what they did was they took a lot of Pokemon from the base set Jungle and Fossil and reprinted them, but not exactly the same. They've certainly updated some of the text, like HPs are a little higher, damage is a little bit better, and wording is less confusing. That's a nice popping sound of that, I like it. So, inside this nice little pre-release box, which is a nice holding container, you are going to find a little pamphlet here. It's got the, the evolution stuff on here and advertisement material, of course. Now on the back, it does have some generic tips for like brand new players. And we'll definitely be covering some of those as well. So, inside the Evolutions pre-release box, you're going to find 4 booster packs of Evolutions, which we will crack open, and you will also have a sealed Evolution pack. Now, that's not because of the set name. All of these pre-release packs have what is known as an Evolution pack. Our promo, which is 1 out of 4, in this one happens to be Machamp. So we're going to see some stuff that's associated with Machamp and a couple other little nice tidbits here and there. Comes with a nice code card that you can use on your PTCGO account, and it'll give you some of the pre-release stuff on your online account, which is really neat. So in this pack we have the Evolution Machamp. We have this neat Mew. Let's see. Ability Neutral Shield. Prevent all effects of attacks, including damage, done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Evolution Pokemon. So you can only smack it with basics. Evolved forms can't do nothing with it, and that's interesting, especially for this kind of sealed event. Cytovolt for 2 energy does 30 damage. Flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. So potential paralysis lock. It's a decent basic starter. With 40 HP, it's going to go down pretty quick, even against like Pidgeys and Rattatas. But this is a nice little safeguard you can put up if somebody's coming after you with a Charizard or a Machamp or things of that nature. With these Evolution packs, they do come with trainers that you can use. Here we have a Great Ball. Helps get our Pokemon out. Shauna, just shuffle, draw 5. And Tierno, which is just draw 3 cards. Most consistent supporter. Alright, in here we seem to have a Nidoking line. And that's pretty cool. So here we'll see we have the baby Nidoran males, 3 of. We will have 2 Nidorinos, and we have 2 Nidokings. A nice 3-2-2 line that will help bolster a deck. All being Psychic type, which is also a new change because in the base set they were initially Grass. So Nidoran male, for 1 Psychic, it is dealing 10 times number of coins that you flip heads, which is 2. Flip 2 coins, 10 damage times number of heads. So that's kind of varying. Not necessarily a great start, but can be a little fun to play out. Nidorino with 1 energy for 20 damage isn't too bad. And 3 energy, flip 3 coins, does 30 damage times the number of heads. So it's the same as first attack, just arguably better. But it is coin flippy and inconsistent. It's really fun when you get that 90 damage out, but it's going to be very frustrating when you do absolutely nothing. 90 HP for stage 1 is pretty decent though. And the Nidoking for 150 HP. 2 energy with Rumble, does 40 damage. Defending Pokemon can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. So it kind of locks them, and there's not too many switch effects, so that's pretty handy. And Tail Swing for 3 energy, doing 100 damage. This attack does 20 damage to each of your opponent's benched basic Pokemon. So that's pretty interesting. That's a lot of upfront damage. It's got some nice spread. The Nidoking's definitely really useful in a sealed event. Definitely getting that Nidoran evolved immediately should be top priority. But in a 40 card deck, having a 3-2-2 line of it, that should be pretty reasonable to do. So that's not a bad starting off play. And here we have, unfortunately, a single line of Machop, Machoke, and Machamp. Definitely, Machop's been redesigned a little bit. Instead of 1 energy doing 20 damage, it is now 2 energy, flip 2 coins, does 20 damage times the number of heads. Once again, we're a little bit on the flippy part of it. And for 2 energy, it doesn't feel all that good. But 70 HP on a basic is pretty nice. With Machoke, we have the Karate Chop, 60 minus 10 for each damage counter on this Pokemon. As long as he's not hurt, 2 energy for 60 is a lot of upfront damage. And we have Submission for 3 energy, 80. This Pokemon does 20 damage to itself. So basically, once you start getting into Submission, you're trying to really hope that you're just knocking them out before you get knocked out yourself. The Machamp itself, with the ability Counterattack. If this Pokemon is your active and is damaged by an opponent's attack, even if it's knocked out, put 3 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. So it's got good retaliatory damage, 160 HP, which is really beefy. And for 3 energy, it is dealing 120 damage. So Machamp is a huge hitter, and he's just constantly reflecting damage back, and he can soak a lot of damage too. It's definitely very powerful in this kind of sealed format, but only having 1 copy of each is very limiting. That's definitely something to where you want to hope you get more Machops and Machokes in your booster packs. Going back through the remainder of the pack, we have a Level Ball, which is super handy. Professor's Letter, get your energies out because we do have a mix of Psychic and Fighting. Another Tierno, another Shauna. Love that consistency. In here, we have a single Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan, still really good. Definitely just a straight-up buff from its original base set version. 90 HP instead of 70. Jab is dealing 30 damage for 1 energy instead of 20. And Special Punch goes from 40 damage to 90 damage. It is brutal. Definitely just a solid basic hitter. This thing will easily knock out Mews that are getting in your way, any basics like Rattatas, like colorless Pokemon. They just don't really stand a chance with this. There's only 1 copy in here, unfortunately, but definitely a solid hitter. It should absolutely be included into your deck. Alright, and we also have a 2-2 line of Diglett and Dugtrio. Checking these guys out, Diglett with 40 HP, got an ability Submerge. As long as this Pokemon is on your bench, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks, both yours and your opponent's. So, definitely dodging, like if you're going up against a Nidoking and he's trying to hit all of your Pokemon, Diglett doesn't get touched. With his attack Dig Through for 2 energy, this attack does 30 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Don't apply weakness and resistance for bench Pokemon. So he is a bench sniper, 30 damage onto a bench for 2 energy. Not too bad. His HP is a little low, so I would not keep him active for too long. A definitely neat utility. The Dugtrio, Stage 1. Excuse me. A Stage 1 with 90 HP. For 2 energy, just dealing 40 damage, which is, pretty solid. And Earthquake for 3 fighting, 130 damage. This attack does 20 damage to each of your benched Pokemon. So, if you're using a Dugtrio, it wouldn't actually be too bad to have a whole bunch of Digletts on your bench because they're not taking the damage and you're just offloading 130 onto your opponent, which generally in this kind of sealed format will be a one-hit knockout most of the time. It's kind of disgusting. Definitely some solid hitters from the fighting types. Decent evolution pack there, combining the psychic and fighting. So if you go up against the same thing, you have some play against your weaknesses, your opponent's weaknesses, I should say. So let us open up the boosters. Let's see what we get. These boosters will be used to enhance your 40-card deck with maybe some nice, neat trainers and maybe some more additional Pokemon. Here we got an Electabuzz already right off the bat. Interesting that's a common. It'd be neat to see the rebuilt Haymaker list with these guys. 70 HP basic. Thundershock for 10 damage. Flip a coin if heads your opponent's active is now paralyzed. That has not changed at all from base set. Thunder Punch for 2 energy does 30 plus. Flip a coin if heads attack does 10 more damage. Tails does 10 to itself. I don't think this card changed from base set. I think it's just a direct reprint. Possibly. I'll have to look that up later, but that's neat. Got a little Drowsy here. Staryu. Here we have an old style metal energy. So it has like the stylings of base set, but it is metal. That's pretty cool. A neat little Growlithe. We have a reverse foil Metapod. Eradicate as our rare. This guy's interesting. Definitely doesn't do Super Fang anymore. Doesn't do the whole half damage thing, unfortunately. But it's very interesting. With Crunch, 1 energy, 10 damage, discard an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. It specifies energy, so in competitive play, you could use that against a special energy. And Shadowy Bite, 1 energy, 60 times the number of special energy cards in your opponent's discard pile. So you could potentially fuel that, discarding their DCEs with Crunch, and then just obliterating with Shadowy Bite. So that's pretty neat. Slowbo Spirit Link, definitely a cool card, but it's not going to provide us any use in a sealed format. Kakuna is neat. Energy Retrieval. Whenever you suffer a knockout, you need those energies back desperately. That's a pretty good trader. Alright. It's definitely some neat stuff. Man, I gotta look up that Electabuzz later. I think it's a direct reprint. I don't think they really changed the numbers too much. Unless Thunder Punch was like 10, which is possible. Or not 10, but 20 plus 10, I should say. Alright, we have here, we got some shininess in this pack. Got here an Onix, 100 HP basic. Solid. We got Harden for 1 energy. During your opponent's next turn, if this Pokemon would be damaged by an attack, prevent that attack's damage done to this Pokemon if that damage is 60 or less. So, if you're constantly chaining Harden, they have to deal a buttload of energy to even hit you. And Rock Throw, 2 energy for 40. He's a nice staller while you're trying to get your other dudes set up. We might add him into there. Here we have an old style Fairy Energy, which is really nice. Voltorb, Tangela, Poliwag, Reverse Foil Rattata, which is definitely really cool. His ability, whenever you play him onto your bench, you may choose a Pokemon. You may discard all Pokemon tool cards attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So, a little bit of usability there. Not so much in sealed. And here we have a full art Mega Pidgeot EX. Definitely really cool, and we'll go over him a little bit later. For the sealed deck, he's basically useless, but really pretty. We have a nice little Haunter here, and a Blastoise Spirit Link. Once again, in sealed... Oh, there we go. Misty's Determination. Discard a card from your hand. If you do, look at the top 8 cards of your deck and put one of them into your hand. Shuffle the other cards back into your deck. So it's pretty handy and will actually be pretty useful in sealed. Being able to trade like one of the 30,000 energies that are in your hands in order to pick something that you may have more use for. Definitely going to be a very handy supporter, especially since supporters are not too common in sealed. Next pack, have a little Barky Growlithe. Hey, we have another Nidoran. If we want to bolster our line, that could be pretty good for the king. We have Vulpix. Sandshrew with Sand Attack. We have 10 damage for 1 energy. If the defending Pokemon tries to attack during your opponent's next turn, your opponent flips a coin. If tails, the attack does nothing. So potential trolling with that. We will definitely revisit him later. Our reverse foil is a Pokédex. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck and put them back in any order. Doesn't really have too much of a use if we're combining it with other things, but it can delay the energy chaining by a couple turns, so still going to be useful. Dugong as our rare, definitely neat, but we don't really have much water support, so not really consideration. Kakuna, Charmeleon is always neat, and Professor Oak's Hint. This is a neat supporter out of this set. You get to draw cards till you have 7 cards in your hand, but your turn ends immediately. Definitely good for the first couple turns. Oh, excuse me. While you're getting set up. And our last pack. Everybody's favorite Pikachu. Pikachu's alright. Here we got another Machop. If we're going to run that Machamp line, that's going to help. Doduo is neat. We have Double Star U-Pack right next to each other. It's always fun. We have another Raticate. 2 Raticates and 1 Rattata. That's kind of interesting. Pidgeot Spirit Link. We have it. Now, if we pulled the Pidgeot EX, we would actually be pretty nice. Unfortunately, we did not. Another Metapod. Yeah, we have a secret rare. That's always fun. Imakuni's Doduo. Now, just to cover this card real quick, this is a card that we never saw an English print for. It was released in Japan back during the Gem Series sets. Down at the, it might be a little bit hard to see, but down in the bottom, right near the border in red text, it does state that this card is not legal for official tournaments. Now, at least for my pre-release, I let it slide because it is meant to be still more fun and casual, even if there is competitive nature into it. And it is kind of a goofy card. So, why does it have that text? Well, let's read it. 50 HP colorless, Pokemon power, not an ability, but Pokemon power. Frenzied Escape. When this Doduo retreats, hold this card and throw it as hard as you can because Doduo is running away. Throw the card horizontally with a snap to get the furthest distance. So literally, he has a free retreat cost, and when you do retreat him, you take him and you chuck him. The attack's even more fun. 2 colorless for 30 damage, Harmonize. From the moment you use this attack, you must begin to sing a song. While the song is being sung, the game continues. When the song is finished, this attack does 30 damage. The moment you stop singing, you deal the 30 damage. That has interesting play. And just kind of see how much you can adjust a song to make it as long as that you want it to be, which is kind of neat. This is a really goofy card, and it's pretty obvious as to why it is not legal for official tournaments, but hopefully at your pre-releases, if you ever get to play this, they will let you play this, because this is a lot of fun. And definitely for the younger kids, if you have a bunch of these, give them to younger kids and let them play with it at leagues and whatnot. I mostly want to see if anybody actually throws this card. For all intents and purposes, we will not include it into this deck that we're going to put together, but it's definitely a really neat card. So, we have opened up our boosters. We now have a rough idea of what we have to work with, and it seems pretty reasonable that we'll probably stick to the Psychic Fighting that we got in our Evolution pack. Looking at the other options and trainers, we don't really have a whole lot, but colorless always can be added to a deck, so we will separate those as well. Just to give us, our general options of what's available. If we pulled a Hypno, that Drowsy might be more useful, but we'll read the Drowsy just to see what we can do with it. If we can do anything with it. Alright, that's basically all the stuff there. So, fighting-wise, we didn't really get too much that will help us out. We did get another Machop. We did get this neat Onix, Sandshrew, but we still have the 2-2 Diglett line. I'll head move these over to the side real quick. We still have the 2-2 Diglett line, so that's definitely nice. We have the one Hitmonchan. Would have been nice if we gotten more, but we got what we got. So out of the fighting line, we at least have 2 Machops, so that will be handy in case one of them gets discarded and or knocked out. The 2-2 Dugtrio, perfectly fine. The one Hitmonchan, good. I like the Onix to be added in because if you can get him off early, he can definitely get some stalling going while you're getting your stuff set up. The Sandshrew is also a decent staller, but he is not as consistent as Onix is. He has less HP and does barely any damage. So, but with that said, he also does do damage in comparison to Harden, which doesn't. So, evaluating your options, I like the consistency of preventing my opponent from doing anything to me, so I would stick to the Onix, and Sandshrew doesn't really have much assistance in this. But other than that, it's a pretty solid fighting line, so we'll go ahead and keep those for 8, 9, 10. We have 10 Pokemon of the fighting variety. So let's look at our psychic options. Here we have the Mew, we have the Nidoran line, which, because we pulled one out of Booster Pack, we can bolster it to 4. A 4-2-2 line. Now, it may not be too useful to have the 4. It's definitely more consistency as far as getting the Nidorans out, but the base Nidorans don't really do much. It's really coin flippy to do any kind of damage, and that's kind of disappointing. Now, if we would have pulled another Nidorino to make it a 3-3-2 line, that would be pretty awesome, but unfortunately we did not. So we will probably keep it a 3-2-2 line just to save some space for more trainers and potential energy. Other psychics, we did pull a Haunter, but no Ghastly, so we have no use for this at all. Drowsy, for 1 energy, just 10 damage, and for 2 psychics, 10 damage, and Guaranteed Confusion. Guaranteed Confusion is really good in a sealed event because they are hard to get out of. It's going to force your opponent to retreat. There's not really any switch cards. So forcing them to retreat and discarding energy is going to set them back a couple turns, and that's pretty handy. And sometimes if the opponent can't even retreat out of it, well, now they're coin flipping to even do their attacks. And if they fail, well, that's 30 more damage onto them, makes it easier to knock them out if they don't knock themselves out. So Confusion definitely really good in this kind of sealed format. We are going to keep this one of Drowsy. May not show up too often, but every little bit helps. I do really like the Mew ability. Mew is definitely going to be really good in the late game, just for hitting that quick 30 damage, potential paralysis, and anything that is evolved can't touch it. So putting this forward while they have an evolution out is going to also force them to retreat, sending them back a couple turns while you get your guys buffed up. I believe Mew is going to be a really good addition to this. Nidoking is a very solid Pokemon as well. We have a very consistent line. It's probably going to be the focus of the deck. So we will definitely keep them around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 19 cards. And we're building a 40-card deck. So let's look at our trainer supply. We have Professor Oak's Hint. We have a Pokedex. We have an Energy Retrieval, a Misty's Determination. We have 2 Shauna. We have 2 Tierno. Just drawing 3 cards. 11. A Professor's Letter, which is going to be really handy in this dual type deck. A Great Ball and a Level Ball. Level Ball is going to be clutch in this because it can grab any Pokemon who has HP of 90 or less. And that's basically all the Pokemon except for the Stage 2s. So, Level Ball is going to get you your Hitmonchan. You know, it's going to grab you your Mew. It won't grab your Onix because he is at 100, but just getting that Hitmonchan out with just one trainer is really good. Great Ball is nice to just get something extra. A little bit of extra draw to thin the deck a little bit is always nice. The Retrieval I definitely want to keep because if you suffer a big knockout and it had a fighting energy on it, you desperately need one for this next turn, get it back. Pokedex, while it doesn't provide a huge benefit, it does pair well, potentially. Well, it doesn't really pair that great with Professor Oak's Hint, but it might depending on the situation. If you already have cards in your hand and you're only using that to draw like 3 or something like that, Pokedex can be very handy in tandem with it. And even if you don't get immediate benefit from it, it's another card that you can play that is no longer in your deck. So you can focus on getting other things out. And that's going to be a solid addition. Same with Misty's Determination, being able to grab anything off the top 8. Considering you have a 40-card deck, that gives you a lot more options than people think. So all these trainers are super beneficial, and I highly recommend running all of them. So we're already at 19 cards in the deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that will put us at 30. So we're at 30 cards in the deck. That leaves us room for 10 energy. And for this kind of sealed event, we don't have that much trainer support to keep cycling the energy due to discards. We don't have that. We don't really have super odds, and we only have 1 energy retrieval. So we will need to cut some things out. Ideally, we're going to want to look at around between 15 and 18 energy to run in the deck. So we will have to make some cuts. Unfortunately, because of the beefiness of this all, I don't think that we are going to have consistent room to run any colorless. Doduo is another coin flip attack that can vary. Rattata and Raticate are neat, but don't provide you good enough utility in a sealed format. The only way that Raticate does huge damage is if your opponent happened to pull a double colorless energy out of their packs. And you're just playing more with the variance of it and will not benefit you all that great, unfortunately. So, we will need to go through and thin the deck a little bit just to get a little bit more energy in there. And this is the hard part. Because we have pretty solid and consistent lines with everybody as far as what we want to do. So, alternatively, we could trim a couple trainers down. Ultimately, it's not going to be very beneficial to be... Pokedex is probably the weakest link out of here, and I feel that next to that would be Great Ball. Just because their utility is nice, but it's not that great. And we need to build up some room. So... Otherwise, we are running 6 supporters, which for a 40-card sealed deck is insane compared to the old pre-release formats where you're lucky if you had 1 supporter. So that's an interesting problem to have nowadays. So we have 9 trainers now. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 28, which provides us room for 12 energy. Definitely a little difficult. None of our attackers are 4 energy requires. They're all generally like 2 or 3 for their max output, so it's not too terrible. Definitely is difficult to manage at that point. Crucial discards will hurt. But for the most part, there's not much discard from hand effects. It's just paying more attention to knockouts. You will need to be very careful with how you attach your energies. You definitely want something up front that can soak a lot of damage while you're attaching your energies intelligently. There's not really any kind of Pokemon catcher effects that's going to force you as an active to get rid of your energies or anything like that, so that is nice. But you're also not going to draw into your energies too much. There will be more Pokemon than there are energies, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. With this deck, you could probably get away with running 12 energy. Looking at the requirements for the Psychics, no more than 2 are required onto the Psychics, whereas your Fightings do require 3 fighting. So you definitely, I think a good proportion would be probably 7 and 5 as far as fighting and psychic, 7 fighting, 5 psychic, if we were going to put this together as is. Just because there is more of a prevalence with the fighting types as there is psychics, and psychics, especially with like Nidorinos, actually don't, if you want to keep sticking with Fury Attack, don't even require Psychic Energies, but you definitely still want at least 1, ideally 2, just so you get that Nidoking out there. So I would say with this build, probably about 7 Fighting, 5 Psychic would be ideal. And that'll be your 40-card deck. Now, not everybody's going to get this exact pack whenever they open up a pre-release. They are going to get a variety. Like I said, there are 4 potential promos, and your promo will also associate with the other evolutions that are in your deck. Well, in your evolution pack, I should say. If you pull a Charizard, you're probably going to have more fire types, and maybe some waters. That part's a little bit various. But the important thing is definitely feeding off of what your evolution pack gives you is a good strategy, especially considering what you can pull out of your packs may help assist it. Alternatively, if you are lucky enough and you pull like a nice big old fat EX, you could adjust your strategy to focus solely around that. But it requires a little bit of foresight into the set, using websites like PokeBeach to research what potential cards are coming before they're actually released. If there's a bunch of Pokemon that have like a safeguard ability to where they can't be damaged by EXs, building an EX deck for a pre-release is probably not a good idea, and you want to stick to evolutions. Otherwise, the evolutions that they provide for us are fairly consistent. The consistency on this Nidoking is huge, and definitely is going to get you a lot of places. And while you don't have too many copies of Machamp is such a heavy hitter that you do want to try to get him out as much as possible. He could potentially win you games. So, focusing on the evolution pack is a pretty decent strategy, but ultimately it all depends on your booster pack pulls. Definitely before you come to a pre-release, make sure you do the research ahead of time. Pop onto PokeBeach, see the Japanese translations of the sets that are revealed before the pre-releases begin, and that'll give you somewhat of an idea of what you may see and what you may play around with. But ultimately, what you play is dependent on what you pull. But those are some general strategies and tips as far as how to tackle a pre-release. By the time you see this, it will probably be close to the end of the Evolutions pre-releases, but you can use these tricks and tips and everything like that to assist you in future pre-releases, especially with the Sun and Moon set coming around the corner. Definitely going to be some really cool stuff there, and I highly recommend you look up a bunch of that stuff. There are some Japanese leaks already of it, and it's going to change the game a lot. So, if you like this kind of content, leave a comment down below, tell me what you think about it, and of course, if you like everything that we do, go ahead and give us a like, subscribe to us if you want to see more content like this and get updates and all that fun stuff, and it helps us out too. But until next time, I'll see you later.